It's time to revise the 1989 Oscars. These are movies from 1988. I use this website that tells me what was Oscar eligible, and I try to play by the rules. The Academy voted on these movies, and these movies alone, not others that weren't eligible. So I try to stick to this list and pick what I think they should have picked back when they had the opportunity. First thing we do is look at what won, what was nominated for Best Picture, and I throw in Best Director as well. We have Rain Man as the winner, The Accidental Tourist, Dangerous Liaisons, Mississippi Burning, Working Girl. I've watched all these movies. I've watched all the movies that were nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture in the 1980s, and at this point, I am getting sick of them. They are a little too sentimental, weird, boomer adult stuff. Maybe I shouldn't blame the boomers, but there's something going wrong here. I think this is why people don't like the 80s. Frankly, this year is pretty bad overall. In fact, this is the worst year I have looked at since I started this project. In 1988, I want to get rid of you. Most of the movies made during this period, at least by Hollywood and the American film industry, I don't think were very good. Anyway, Rain Man won. It is typical of a lot of movies at this point in time. Great performances, pretty sentimental, pretty obvious buddy road trip journey. I think a lot of you might like it. I don't like it as much. In fact, I don't like anything on this list that much, other than The Accidental Tourist, because I like William Hurt and I like the literary quality of that movie. Normally with Best Director, they usually kept the Best Picture winners. Unusual actually to take out two and put in two. Martin Scorsese makes it. Charles Crichton. They took out Stephen Frears for Dangerous Liaisons, which I don't get. Anyway, let's X out this list and redo this completely. Here's my draft of nominees, movies worth mentioning. I usually make a longer list to try to figure out what 5 movies I would choose as Best Picture nominees. I want you to make the same list. Let me know in the comments, what do you think are the best movies of this year? What do you think should have won Best Picture? Should Rain Man have won? What else should have won? So take a look at that website and Oscar-eligible movies to play along. By far, this is the shortest draft list I have made. This is actually pretty pathetic. I'm even stretching a little bit on a couple of these movies, in my opinion, in order to get to a fuller, richer list with 6 nominees in the draft and 5 worth mentioning. And I said overall, this is not a good year. Actually, it's a terrible year. I really just don't like the big movies of this time, and that includes the movie Big. You know, there's Beetlejuice here. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I probably should mention it. It's not that bad. I kind of actually appreciate it, but this year had a lot of sequels. And you think, you know, recent years have had a lot of stupid sequels. They made them back then. This one has it. Crocodile Dundee 2, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Poltergeist 3, Short Circuit 2, Cocoon 2. Yeah, they made a sequel to Cocoon. Arthur 2. Yep, they made a Friday the 13th sequel this year. They made a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. You know, the list just goes on. Missing in Action 3, you know, Rambo 3, whatever. We're going to make a lot of action movies. Actually, I'm looking at this listing. I know the movie I missed. I didn't notice it here, Naked Gun. So I should probably put Naked Gun in my worth mentioning list. I loved ending that movie. Enrico Caruso, I think that movie actually is pretty funny. Anyway, the draft of nominees, you have 3 not eligible sitting right there. And so I've just got to whittle this down to 5. I should mention in the worth mentioning list, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, Pedro Almodovar. You know, that's a really interesting movie. I think visionarily it's great. I'm not in love with it personally, and maybe I just need to rewatch it 2 or 3 more times. I think a lot of people love this, so go check that one out. Midnight Run, Die Hard, these are good action movies, or good movies. Good characters in them, are acting in them, and so I do like Tucker by Coppola. I think that's one of his unheralded movies. Jeff Bridges is in it. It's not that great of a movie, but I really do like it quite a bit, so I'm putting it right here. Of the 6 nominees, or in my draft of nominees, you know, Cinema Paradiso, a lot of people love that movie. I think it's very sentimental, super well done. I mean, the visuals in that, the editing in that is fantastic. I love the long arc of that movie, a lifelong love of cinema as depicted in this Italian movie. I'm just not into the syrupy sentimentality as much. I think this movie is sort of the climax of 80s movies. The sentimentality about movies and of movies is here in this movie. So if you're having a hard time with your life, having a harsh existence, Cinema Paradiso is a good one to watch. It's just not of my sensibility, so I'm going to kick that one out and keep the other 5 in my list of Best Picture nominees. And yeah, I'm going to cheat here because Grave of the Fireflies and Totoro are sitting here. Frankly, I just don't have many options. What would I put in here? Die Hard, Midnight Run, Accidental Tourist, probably. Maybe Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. But I like these 2 movies a lot. I think they're deserving of being mentioned here. Of the other 3, 8 Men Out is my favorite baseball movie. And it's not just a baseball movie. If you know zero about baseball, you can still watch and appreciate this movie, especially as a middle-aged adult. I speak as one. You know, it's about sports gambling, which is on the rise right now. It's about institutional policies, workers getting screwed over by their bosses. There's a number of great topics that I think people who have aged a little bit, and even they hate baseball, they can appreciate this movie quite a bit, which is obviously about the Black Sox scandal of 1919. Little Dorrit, what the heck is that? That's the longest movie ever eligible for Oscars up to this point. A 6-hour movie from England, or Great Britain. You know, they adapted Charles Dickens's Little Dorrit. And I actually like this movie a lot. It's directed by a female. I can't remember her name, Christine Edzard, I think. Really well done. I love this version. It's really two halves, and the first half tells the story from the perspective of Arthur Clennam, you know, the middle-aged Englishman, and the second half tells a story from Little Dorrit's perspective. These are two different perspectives. I love that comparison contrast in this movie. Very well acted. I think directing is excellent in it. Actually, everything's excellent in it. So I'm going to give this a recommend, even though it is 6 hours long. You probably do have to like Charles Dickens' Victorian England to dig it like I do. The last movie on here, Thin Blue Line, Errol Morris's revolutionary, great documentary. I highly recommend it. Philip Glass score, and you know it's Errol Morris. What are you going to say? So you should watch this movie just to see. Actually, if you watch this movie, you'll think it's ordinary and humdrum. But what it's doing, the reenactments of real life interviews with people trying to figure out who committed a crime or not. You know, that's the true crime thing. It didn't necessarily start here, but it really gets a huge boost from this movie, this documentary, so check it out. So instead of Rain Man, let's pick Best Picture. The Best Picture winner is...
And the winner is...
I am going to cheat again. I love following rules. I hate breaking rules. I want to stay true to the Academy's rules from 1989, but I'm going to break them. And I'm not going to break them terribly because I'm going to pick two movies, which is a joke. You might hate me for it. Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro. There is no way I'm going to pick one movie over the other here. I actually have a hard time doing so. Probably if I do it, it'd be Totoro. And I actually don't like Totoro that much. I think I'm just too old for it. But I've seen it hypnotize people. I've seen people be so influenced by it. They play act it. They draw the movie years after, you know, put stickers on their laptops long after they first seen it. For some reason, it's infective, it's infectious. This is a time period where animated movies in Hollywood are just not done. Barely any of them are done. Who Framed Roger Rabbit from last year, the previous year, 1987, but there are not a lot of animated movies, period, at this point. Miyazaki is going strong in Japan. You know, this is after Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa of the Valley, when he makes this movie. That is an amazing stretch of 3 movies in a row. I think Totoro is an amazing movie. I really do. I said I didn't like it, but I like it enough to appreciate it and respect it. And that's really where I'm at with it. Meanwhile, Grave of the Fireflies, one of the most somber movies ever made. A very difficult animated movie because it's about the nuclear bombings and atom bombings during World War II, obviously Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the remembrances of that. And the animation does it great justice because it displaces it somewhat from real life, enough so we can get it. If this were filmed as a realistic movie with real people, I think it'd be too hard to watch. But this one, it is a thoughtful adult movie. And so these are two different flavors, Fireflies and Totoro. I think they should go together. Again, if I singled them out, probably pick Totoro over Fireflies, but I'm going to put both of them here to signal to you. You should go run to watch both of these. If I'm going to pick an eligible movie, I probably should cheat and go back and pick Die Hard. A movie I don't think is actually that well filmed, but it's actually really memorable. You know, the influence is like Totoro's in a different way, obviously, but it's still out there, still around. Now it's a Christmas movie. So maybe I'll just cop out and pick Die Hard as my Hollywood movie for Best Picture. But the question remains, what would you choose from this terrible year of movies? I guarantee 1989 is better. 1986-7 was really good. So this is just an aberration, I think. You know, if people hate the 80s, maybe it's this year, or maybe it's the Best Picture winners. You know, I wouldn't blame them for hating the 80s for those reasons. But we'll get to a better year with 1989. Stay tuned with my Oscar series. I'm going to keep going, or go back and rewatch those videos. Thank you for subscribing. Have fun. Have a great day.